Mathys Tel, Carvey, in the last hour, a twist. For those who missed it, tell them what's happened. Well, it looks like he has rejected the chance to move from Bayern Munich to Tottenham in a permanent deal, worth around £50 million. Now I say looks like because this is what is being reported. Try not to laugh. I say it looks like he's rejected Spurs. He'll be back if they don't get another club. It's because this has been reported by Sky Germany. We've got transfer reporters in all these countries. Now, the top transfer reporter in Germany is somebody called Florian Plettenberg. Now, Florian has very, very good contacts at Bayern Munich. He gets lots of Bayern Munich stories. And he is reporting this evening that Mathys Tel has rejected the offer presented to him by the Spurs chairman, Daniel Levy, and that Bayern's bosses are aware that he's rejected Tottenham. Now, I'm trying to read between the lines, and I would imagine that Florian has got this information from Bayern Munich. He is saying that Tel has rejected Spurs, but he is open to a loan move to, and he's putting it in this order, Manchester United, Aston Villa, and Chelsea, but not Spurs. Paul Merson, your reaction? Yeah, he can't go Spurs now. Fans won't be happy with that. As soon as they hear that, and them three don't come in, and he ends up at Tottenham, the fans won't be happy with that. Daniel Levy was heavily involved in this. They really wanted him. Are you surprised he didn't get it over the line? Yeah, I am surprised, but then the way Tottenham are playing at the moment, I'm not surprised. But he's a good young player, and everyone knows I've got a lot of love for Tottenham, so it's a bit disappointing when you hear a young player like that can't come in. Will he be a regular? I understand Solanke's injured at the moment, and he might get that opportunity. But they're the type of players Tottenham should be signing. But I know Man United's in theory a bigger club than Tottenham. I totally get that. But the way Man United are playing at the moment and the way Tottenham are playing, I think I'd rather go to Tottenham at the moment. If I was him, but that's probably with my Tottenham hat on. What was the order of the clubs again that Florian said? Manchester United, Aston Villa, Chelsea. So just on Manchester United, United are actually interested in Mathys Tel, but this is very tentative at this stage. They have made inquiries, but they've been described to me as tentative. That's because United would have to do business out of the club if they were to try and bring someone like Mathys Tel in. It would be different if it was a loan. Then maybe they could juggle the wages around if someone was to leave, and then they could get Mathys Tel in that way. But Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho, they're the two we've been talking about throughout this transfer window. And I know you could say, oh, they could release a player in another position in that squad, but it would also be to do with the squad space and the salary as well. So if they were to lose a forward, they'd then want to recruit one as well. So if they're interested in Tel, they'd probably have to release one of these two. Paul, is this embarrassing for Spurs that a player doesn't want to go there? No, I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, he's coming from Bayern Munich, so he's not coming from a lesser team. No disrespect to Tottenham, but he's coming from a huge team. He's a young lad. He's got to get it right. He's got to get the right move. At the moment, Tottenham are 15th. I think if they were in the top 4, I think he would come. So, no, I wouldn't say this is embarrassing for Tottenham. I mean, as I say, he's at Bayern Munich at the moment. But the embarrassing thing is that they must have had a rough idea they could get him. When these deals happen, there's a lot of talking beforehand. The player, they'd have asked the player or their agent, a lot's done behind the scenes before they go and make an offer. So they'll be quite shocked with that, in my opinion. Are Spurs going to be scrambling around until 11 o'clock on Monday? Yeah, of course. We'll be in the studio until 11 doing the transfer. I'll be in there and we'll just be waiting and seeing across the screen some breaking news. I'll be asking these two men what's going on with Tottenham. Tottenham need to do business. They've got so many injuries at the moment. It's a struggle. Andrew's under big pressure. They need to start winning football matches. I know they're still in the cup, and that's probably why he's still in all the cups, because that's why he's still in his job. Because the run they've been on has been terrible, and they need to do business. You can't have your main centre forward Solanke out for 6 weeks. With Charleston just coming back from injury, he picks up injuries. They need a player who can play in all those 3 positions. The transfer window remains open and busy, and the latest news concerns this man who's dominated this transfer window, Marcus Rashford. And we understand this lunchtime that Aston Villa are close to agreeing a loan deal. They're trying to push for a loan deal with an option to buy as well. And they expect to be covering a significant portion of his wages, which has been one of the big sticking points in terms of getting Rashford a move, but it looks like he is edging ever closer to move out of Old Trafford, with a loan deal to Aston Villa and pleased as punch right next to me, Samuel Boyd and Nolan Baker, who only moments ago expected him to be heading out of Old Trafford. And I mean, in terms of his destination, which now does look like Villa Park, does that come as any surprise, Boydie? No, and I think, when you look at, he's obviously been linked with clubs abroad earlier in the window, and that didn't materialize. And, Villa's obviously seen a little opportunity there to go and get him. And the longer it went on, you kind of got the feeling that Marcus Rashford was going to stay at home. And that's exactly what he's done. And it's a great opportunity. Champions League football as well. I think he can play. He's played in the Europa League for Manchester, so I think he can play in the Champions League. So, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for him, another big football club. But there's one thing Marcus Rashford needs to get his career back on track. He does. And so inevitably, all the chat now, particularly online, will be about a certain Ollie Watkins. Because putting 2 and 2 together, many will conclude that means potentially the move to Arsenal could be back on. How does this change things for you? Or does it? No, I still think they'll try and keep him. Obviously, Unai Emery had him in Duran, didn't they, for that period of time, where it was having those two options was great, having that competition for places. That if it wasn't quite working for Ollie Watkins, Duran had come on and scored the winner. I also think Marcus Rashford he's got that versatility, so he can come off the left, he can come off the right if need be, can obviously be the option in the number 9 if you need to rotate with Ollie Watkins. They've obviously brought in Marlon as well, so they now have options. Aston Villa needed to strengthen. They've got a lot of injuries, obviously, trying to compete in the Champions League and in the Premier League, so they needed to bring players in. And I think Unai Emery will back himself to get the best out of Marcus Rashford, but my worry is actually selling him to a rival club. You just think if he goes to Aston Villa and performs at a very, very high level, what will the Manchester United fans think? We'll do one more of Marcus Rashford because Dorsey's getting very, very excited. We'll explain why in just a moment, but I think you can probably guess. Clinton, final one on this. I mean, he'd been at Man United for a long, long time. Made his debut 2-0-1-6-1-3, 8 goals in 426 appearances. It's the okay alone, but the end of a long, long chapter. If Emery can get him firing, they have some player on their books if this is done. Yeah, he's a talented boy. Everyone knows when Marcus Rashford burst onto the scene, he was a number 9, then done all of his good work from the left-hand side. And I think that's where he'll play. He'll have to compete. Because I do like the boy Ramsey that plays there. I think he's an exciting young player. But thing is with Rashford, he can also play through the middle at times if you want to give Watkins a break or something. But yeah, he just needs to play football week in, week out. I think the perfect manager for him is Unai Emery. It's detailed, and you'll have to do it. You'll have to buy into what Unai Emery wants to do because it is a lot of stuff on the training ground. But I think he'll be a really good signing for Aston Villa. And you know what? A change of scenery is always the best sign sometimes. Not saying he's been at Man United too long, but he's been there a long time. Other managers have worked with him. It hasn't worked out for Marcus Rashford. I think this is a great move for Marcus Rashford and for Aston Villa. Over to you, Chris. The other thing is as well that, I mean, if it's the obliged to buy him, they're looking to get a day where they get the option to buy. Yeah. If they don't, sometimes when you go away, you may just realize what you've got. And, it may be a case for Manchester United to go and play football. And then he realizes, I mean, Aston Villa is a big football club, a huge football club, but they're not Man United. So it may be, a chance if he goes away and performs to realize what you had at Manchester United, and he could come back in the summer with his Barcelona plan to continue. Will Benjamin Yamal write on for Mitoma? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. 1 Hour Sports here, as always, to keep you posted. On the transfer market, many things happening, a few days to go. Mathys Tel, João Felix, Mitoma, Xavi Simons, Pedri, Dorgu, Watkins. Let's jump into it together. And so guys, many movements on the market. We are there. We are in the final weekend of the January transfer window. Then Monday, deadline day. Many things happening, but let's start with an official update. Pedri signs new deal at Barcelona till 2030. If you are following me and the channel, you knew this story already a few days ago. Verbal agreement, then preparing all the documents. Today, Pedri signed at Barcelona his new deal. Tomorrow is going to be time for Pablo Gavi till 2032. With release close of €1 billion for Pedri and for Gavi. And so Barcelona director Deco working like crazy in terms of time and also in terms of investment, because Barcelona are investing a lot on these new contracts. Ronaldo Araujo, Gerard Martin, Pedro Pedri, and also Pablo Gavi in the next 24 hours. Then Barcelona will continue with Inigo Martinez one more season. Barca are very happy with him. Also, the coach Hansi Flick really likes his leadership and his performances. And then, important to say, that Barcelona plan to continue with Vamilamo in the summer. So Pedri now, Gavi next, and then Inigo Martinez and Vamilamo. Barcelona working hard on new contracts. A crucial part of the strategy of Deco, who really wanted to get these new contracts done at Barca. I said deadline day on Monday. But deadline day in Saudi is tomorrow, is today if you are watching the video on Friday. because Saudi clubs will close the market on Friday. And so guys, it's important to say that the deal for John Duran is done. So the player did his medical, all the documents are being checked, but 77 million euros for Aston Villa. John Duran is going to Al Nassr, playing next to Cristiano Ronaldo. Also important to say that the deal is off for Victor Boniface from Bayer Leverkusen. Was verbally advanced but never done. And so it's important to mention that John Duran is going to Al Nassr with Cristiano Ronaldo. And Victor Boniface at the moment staying at the club. Also important to mention in this sense on this conversation, that they tried from Al Nassr to approach Brighton for Mitoma, the winger. They made a proposal for Mitoma, rejected by Brighton, 65 million euros. It's true, otherwise they could look at different opportunities. But from Brighton, the first answer was, we are not interested in selling Mitoma now. Let's see if Al Nassr can do something special, or if the player will end up staying at the club. For Baena, the winger of Villarreal, Al Ahly made a proposal, but the player decided to stay. We started with something official, but keep an eye on the summer, because Xavi Simons signed in at Red Bull Leipzig on a permanent transfer. He was on loan to Red Bull Leipzig from Paris Saint-Germain. But PSG needed one more spot for loans to allow Milan Skriniar to go to Fenerbahce. PSG knew that the story of Xavi Simons in Paris was over, because of many reasons. So Xavi Simons was out of the project at Paris Saint-Germain. They decided to trust Desiré Doué as a youngster in that similar position, and so now the situation is quite clear. Xavi Simons is a Red Bull Leipzig player, 100%. Forget about PSG, he's playing for Red Bull Leipzig, no longer on loan, but on permanent transfer. But the contract is valid until June 2027. Short contract, 2 years and a half. What does it mean? In the summer, save this video, remember the name. Xavi Simons will be one to watch, with Premier League and La Liga clubs ready to attack. Especially Premier League, because many clubs in England are keeping close eye to the situation of Xavi Simons. Top clubs, all of them, closely monitoring the player. Watching the player, I can tell you that several of them sent their scouts. After the transfer window, I will be more precise on which club. But remember that Xavi Simons in the summer could be a very interesting situation for Premier League clubs. How much Leipzig paid? 50 million euros fixed fee plus 31. So total package, 81 million euros plus sell-on clause for Xavi Simons. Also important to say, guys, to Manchester United fans, some of you was quite worried about the situation of Patrick Dorgu. What happened? The medical was already booked for today for Patrick Dorgu to travel and have his medical today in Manchester. But the plan changed. Why changed? Because Lecce, the Italian team, play today, so there is a need for Lecce to have the player as part of the matchday squad. Then on Saturday morning, Patrick Dorgu, together with his agents, will fly to England and will have his medical as new Manchester United player. So there is no problem. 30 million euros, 5 million euros in add-ons. Remember also for Anthony, it took some time, and the number of ITPs in injuries is an estimate based on selection. They are checking all the documents. Also for Dorgu, weekend is going to be the time for Patrick Dorgu to become a new Manchester United player, also with the formal steps. So no surprise expected on this deal. Surprise is expected with Mathys Tel, because the big exclusive story, big one really in the past few days, of Mathys Tel deciding to leave Bayern. Then what happened next? All the top clubs in England started to call. So Tottenham today had a direct call with Daniel Levy working on this deal, with Johan Lange, the director of Tottenham, all of them working on a deal for Mathys Tel. Tottenham are ready to pay 60 million euro to Bayern. Bayern are ready to let the player go. Now, depends on Mathys Tel. He wants to go to Tottenham, he wants to go to another club, he wants to go maybe alone and not on a permanent deal. Mathys Tel has to decide. He asked a few more hours while I'm recording this video to talk to his family, to talk to his agent and decide. Loan, permanent, which club? Why I say which club? Because there is Tottenham ready with an agreement with Bayern, but Aston Villa are also trying. And Aston Villa have the money in their pocket from John Duran. Big money. Also, Manchester United interested in Loanen, still pushing on player's side in case he decides to go on Loanen. And then Arsenal and Chelsea pushing on a permanent transfer since the beginning, but they have many offensive players. And Mathys Tel really wants to play. This is why for Chelsea, a big convincing action is needed to get the green light from Mathys Tel. That's why it's not that easy. And then Arsenal looking for an offensive player. They want Ollie Watkins. First bid rejected, but at the moment, Aston Villa insist that they want to keep the player. Unai Emery told the board that he absolutely wants Ollie Watkins to stay, or Arsenal do something very big, I would say almost crazy, to reach an agreement for Ollie Watkins. Otherwise, they will look at different targets. And Mathys Tel could be very interesting. But Tottenham today had a call with Bayern, reached a verbal agreement with Bayern on the transfer fee. 60 million euros. Now, Mathys Tel has to decide what he wants to do next. We were mentioning Aston Villa as one of the clubs interested in the situation of Mathys Tel. Also important to say that Villa today have more contacts. One, Joe Felix, a deal that they are discussing since the beginning of the week, a player that Unai Emery loves. So, for sure, they had more contacts with Joe Felix. Joe Felix has the same agent of Marco Asensio at Paris Saint-Germain. Asensio could leave in the final days of the transfer window. There is interest from England. There is also interest from Italy. So Marco Asensio is an interesting situation to follow. In the final days, Aston Villa made a call today to ask about the situation, to understand the conditions of the deal from PSG. So Asensio and Joe Felix are for sure in the list at Aston Villa. Mathys Tel is a desire. Different position, number 9. But it depends on what the player wants to do. So keep an eye on Aston Villa, because they will be super busy in the final days of the window with big money in their pocket. 77 million euros from John Duran, plus the loans. So let's follow these crazy days of the final week of the transfer window. And so guys, let me know your thoughts on all these stories. Let me know your opinion here in the comments on all of them, from Mathys Tel, where should he go, but also me, Matoma, Joe Felix, Dorgu, Watkins, and all the rest. I wait for your opinion, guys, here in the comments. Life is on the move. Right, we've had Sami Modber of the Mail say that Aston Villa have rejected an official bid from Arsenal for Ollie Watkins. We've got more. Fabrizio Romano has said that official bid was £60 million. Dharmesh, your reaction? Well, I was talking about whether Arsenal could get a forward deal done in this transfer window, and they're looking at long-term options and short-term options as well. Watkins wouldn't be a short-term option. He's a player that they have admired for a while, and if they could get a deal like that done, they would obviously look at it in the summer, because that's when they want to do their big business. But as I mentioned before, during this window, if they can get something done in a January transfer window, they would go for it. But with 5 days to go in this window, and especially with all this talk about John Duran and the Saudi Arabian club as well, and the timing of this as well, Aston Villa have got an absolutely massive Champions League game tonight against Celtic. So it is amazing that Arsenal, if all of this is true, we're trying to check it out with our sources as well. If this is true, it's an audacious bid, and the timing of it is extraordinary, because how would, if Villa were to entertain anything like this, try and find a replacement in the time that they've got? Exactly. Would Villa let him go this late in the window? I think, look, I can understand why Arsenal supporters are very excited at the moment, because Ollie Watkins is an out-and-out striker, number 9. A lot of Arsenal fans would say he's the kind of player we've been crying out for. But I think we should show Aston Villa some respect, because they've got a big Champions League game this evening against Celtic. There have already been stories about John Duran possibly leave. The timing to go round the clubs certainly is. Arsenal are in talks with Rosenborg over a deal for Norwegian teenager Sverre Nipan. Alexander Zinchenko is attracting interest from Atletico Madrid and Borussia Dortmund. According to Sky in Germany, Bayer Leverkusen have reached an agreement to sign Aston Villa's Emiliano Buendia on loan with an option to buy. Villa have made an offer to Villarreal for defender Juan Foyth, who Bournemouth, while they're still looking for a cover up front, and they'd considered a loan deal for Brighton striker Evan Ferguson. Wolfsburg have completed the signing of Brentford's Mads Ruslev, that's on initial loan, with a £5.5 million option to buy. West Ham United and Tottenham are 2 more clubs considering a move for Brighton striker Evan Ferguson. We're going to hear a lot about him, who could leave on loan this winter. Chelsea centre-back Renato Vega is in Turin completing a loan move to Juventus until the end of the season. They're yet to show an official interest in Manchester United's Alejandro Garnacho. Let's go to Crystal Palace now, and their defender Tarek Mitchell is a player that Manchester United have checked on in this window, and he could be an option if their move for Lecce defender Patrick Dorgu falls through. Armando Broja will stay at Everton for the remainder of the season after Chelsea opted not to recall him from his loan spell at Goodison Park. Fulham are another of the clubs who are looking at guess who? Evan Ferguson. The striker is now fit again, but is out of the picture at Brighton. No Premier League club has made more signings this month than Ipswich's 3. They were looking at as many as 5 new additions to help them stay in the division. Yup, Leicester City midfielder Hamza Chowdhury has undergone a medical at Sheffield United today. The deal is the loan until the end of the season, and that loan comes with an option to buy it. Liverpool remain quiet in this transfer window, with their main focus retaining the services of 3 of their key players: Mo Salah, Trent, Alexander-Arnold, and Virgil van Dijk. all three out of contract in the summer. Yeah, Bayern Leverkusen now won't sign Manchester City's James McAtee after making a breakthrough in negotiations for Aston Villa forwards Emiliano Buendia. Barcelona have yet to make any formal arrangements to loan Marcus Rashford from Manchester United. Napoli haven't given up hope on signing Alejandro Garnacho. Lecce have said they don't want to sell Man United target Patrick Dorgu, yet Miguel Almiron is closing in on a return to former club Atlanta United. The MLS side have a broad agreement in place with Newcastle United for £8 million plus £3 million in performance-related add-ons. Nottingham Forest retain an interest in Wolves forward Mathys Tel. He is yet to sign a new contract and is also entrusting Arsenal and Aston Villa. A fee of £55 million is what it would take for Southampton to even consider selling Tyler Diebling this month. They want to keep him at least until the summer. It's been business as usual at Tottenham Hotspur today. Despite their defeat to Leicester City, they want at least one new signing before the deadline, but it depends on capturing the right player. RB Leipzig's Andre Silva is a forward option for West Ham United, as Graham Potter aims to strengthen his forward line. Wolves are back in talks with Long over a deal for Kevin Danso. He could become their second centre-back signing this month. TV, the home of all Premier League action and analysis. Fulham match against Manchester United. Nolan said, not a brilliant game, but for Manchester United right now, does it matter in terms of that? I think their goal was their only shot on target. Does that matter, or does what matters result to give him some breathing space? I'd say both. They both matter. It does matter how they play. It does matter how many chances they create. It does matter how this thing's rolling forward. And it's going to be a slow one. It's going to be a slow project. You know, even though they won the game and you said it, the Manchester United fans are brilliant. Away fans are superb and that's great. And they'll stay behind this manager and this team. No worries about that. But they're going to have to be patient. And it feels good to win. And it is, of course, it's really important to get a victory. They've had some pretty bad losses in recent weeks and that wasn't amazing. But the second half was better and there's less issues without the ball, a little bit more possession control. And, you know, if it's going to be, it might be the United get better possession steadily without creating too many chances. And that might be the last piece of it. So it is going to take a long time. And we've seen so many permutations of not systems, but different players in different spots and switching wing backs and all sorts. It gets better just by a small amount each time. It's interesting. At the beginning of the week, all the headlines, of course, were about Amorim saying this is the worst team in Manchester United's history. But actually then he walked it back a little bit. He said, oh, I'm a young manager. Maybe I shouldn't have said it. But 2 wins since he said it. Okay, 2 late winners in both the games, 2 wins. It's a result, 1-0 away at Fulham. It sounds better than it looked. It wasn't great on the eye. But it's about getting 3 points. That was important. I think Graham said it in commentary. There's so much more that can be done on the football side, but some of that will come in time. And I think, you know, with Nolan, I saw the point of where they're in front of the Manchester United fans who are going crazy because they've won 1-0 at Fulham with a deflected goal. And it just gives you a little glimpse into what the future could be with this team, who can play better, who can score goals, but there's so much work to do. But the important thing in professional sport and the position Manchester United were in was 3 points. Nolan, in terms of the tweaks he made today and the movements of the different players into the different slots, is there anything that he did that he can rule out or rule in moving forward to make his system better? Well, I think the Mazraoui thing's interesting because he tried to play him in a slightly different position. Mazraoui's not a wing back, and he's having to play him there in certain games. Now, he's manufacturing his role a little bit to try and make it different. That's not something that looks like it's going to get a lot better. So in terms of ruling things in, I don't think you can rule anything particularly strongly in right now as well. Again, I'm not changing my tune on this. This is going to be a slow one. They don't look great, but it might slowly, I think it will, until reinforcements come. That changes everything. If they get a few new players in, that's when it might get better. I'll go to one point, ruling something out. Rasmus Højlund, not sure about. Out, not sure that he's, well, in terms of potential and finishing, there's enough there. But in terms of attitude and working, and I've seen it a few times, he's putting his hands up in the air, he's playing like a superstar, he's not getting the service. I admit he's not getting great looks, but I just think that he's on a short shift here. They might decide that if they can raise some money, they might decide to sell him. Paces here behind me before flying out to Bucharest this afternoon. And while Ruben Amorim works on their conditioning and shape and trying to get some consistency in the performances and the spirit he wants to see, the club's recruitment team have been very busy and they're anticipating quite a crazy end to this window with so much up in the air. One thing that's not up in the air that is confirmed, it's the main thing. Patrick Dargu. Now, United's priority in this window was signing a left wing-back, and they're finalising an agreed deal with Lecce, with the player set to fly in for his medical. Now, if he does travel today, it would be in the evening quite late because he's still waiting for the green light to travel. Medical will be sorted out tomorrow or on Friday. United are just tying up the paperwork in that deal, and then once that is done, we'll know for certain when his medical is happening. Now, what that deal does is not only equips Ruben Amorim with a player that's well versed in the sort of system that he plays, but it allows them to take their time with Luke Shaw's return, not put any pressure on him, and they're also open to loaning out Tyrell Malacia. Now, Real Betis are amongst the teams interested in him. They've made a very strong check, and then United are also waiting to see if Roma return with a loan offer for Casemiro. They have registered their interest, now it's whether they follow it up. United are also finalising a deal for Aiden Heaven, the 18-year-old centre-back from Arsenal. And that move is an interesting one because it's part of a longer drive that has been Jason Wilcox-led to increase the club's pool of talent between the ages of 18 to 20 to prime them to enter the first team. Now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of intrigue, a lot of attention around Marcus Rashford and what happens with him. We can see him training here. He is waiting on Barcelona to make their move, but they're struggling to create salary space, and if they activate their interest in him, it's going to be very late in the window. They are sensing an opportunistic window where they can possibly put pressure on United to pay a significant chunk of his salary for the deal to get done. So if that doesn't happen and Rashford stays at United, does he have a future? There needs to be some remedying of the relationship between him and Ruben Amorim, and the trust between them and the onus, the head coach has said, is purely on the player. He needs to train the right way, to perform the right way, to present himself in the right way. Not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well in terms of his lifestyle. So as the days pass, it's looking increasingly likely that he will stay here unless Barcelona do what he's hoping they do and activate their interest in him and actually engage United, because that's not happened yet. It's also gone quiet, I'm told, on Alejandro Garnacho. We know Napoli and Chelsea remain interested in the 20-year-old, but neither of them have actually tempted United to sell, and the club made it quite clear they're not desperate to let Garnacho go. Amorim's been very happy with him and the way he's adjusted to his demands, the way he's increased his defensive diligence. Now, there's a €10 million difference between what Napoli want to pay and what United are expecting. Chelsea haven't engaged United about Garnacho yet, but it is believed that they are his preference. And if they were to push United, would expect a bigger fee from them given they're a Premier League rival than they would from Napoli. So the club are saying they're quite happy with Garnacho, they're happy to keep him, situation is fine as it is. They do believe that as the window ticks on, that both clubs, Napoli and Chelsea, will recenter their interest and make it a lot more concrete. But as it stands, nothing moving with Garnacho. Now, I'm sure Amorim will be answering a lot about the transfer window, about his preparations, about where he feels United are heading, and you can listen to that on 1 Hour Sports News from 7 p.m. live when we'll be crossing to his press conference